now that I've gone into presenter mode, your lovely little faces. So please don't wave if you've got a question. Feel free to interrupt at any time if you have a question. But can everybody just confirm that yes, we can see the slide on your screen?
Yeah,
we can.
Right, fabulous. Fabulous. Okie dokie. Well, first off, thank you everybody for joining today's session. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Claire. My name is Sean. I'm an accountant in practice at Westcotts in Plymouth, and we've been asked to prepare just a small presentation about practical ways to build business resilience, with a particular emphasis on improving cash flow. The kind of main aim of today is to leave you with kind of simple, usable actions that you can put into place straight away. As Claire alluded to earlier, businesses locally are facing a mix of challenges. There's rising costs, staff shortages, and just generally a tougher trading environment. So no matter what sector you're in, business resilience is becoming essential and not really optional anymore. So today I'm going to be here to walk you through some practical tools to use to strengthen your financial footing and make sure your business is better prepared for whatever comes next. So we've got a little list of stuff on the screen, just what we might be, what might be hitting you at the moment. But the goal of the session, give you the tools, you can apply them immediately, strengthen cash flow and reduce that business risk. I'm going to rattle through these quite quickly. So like I said, if you do have a question, please do interrupt me. But what is business resilience? So resilience isn't just about surviving, it's about maintaining operations and finding ways to adapt or pivot your business when needed. And financial resilience is kind of the core focus for today, but it is closely linked to people, operations, systems and markets. So when all of these areas support each other, and when they all support each other well, the business becomes stronger as a whole. So the resilience mindset. So no matter the industry, resilient businesses, they don't wait for the problems, they anticipate them. So it's all about building flexibility into your finances and your operations, regularly reviewing your data and creating a culture within the business that can respond quickly to change. Most importantly, in addition to the notes on the screen, a resilient business leader will also seek support before a problem becomes an insurmountable issue. So cash flow. Why is cash flow central to all of this? Cash flow is the single biggest factor in whether a business can survive a shock. You can have profit on paper, but still run out of cash. All of you must have run a business and your accountant's turned to you and said you've had a great year and you go, I've got no money in the bank. That doesn't say so. But a strong cash flow will give you room to negotiate, to invest and to stay in control rather than constantly reacting to problems. If you're spending your time firefighting, you're not spending your time working on your business and getting your business to work. The key to understanding your cash and where your cash is going is understanding your cash flow cycle. So the cash cycle is the time between spending money and getting it back. The shorter the cycle, the stronger the cash flow. Most businesses, not all businesses, but most businesses follow the same kind of pattern. You purchase materials or you invest in bits and pieces to be able to do the job. Those bits and pieces go into your stock, all work in progress. You then go out and you do the work for whatever business. So you make your supply that your business makes. Once you've made that supply, you then raise a sales invoice. You then wait for that sales invoice to get paid, which turns it into cash. And then that cash then goes and buys more material, more stock for you to be able to do what you do. And the key is to stretch some areas of this cash flow cycle, but also to shorten that cash flow cycle as much as possible. So the aim's reduce delays in your invoicing, reduce delays in your production, reduce the amount of time that you have stock on hand, and reduce the amount of days before you collect the cash from your customers. So if you don't shorten this cycle, this can create cash flow issues, which tend to fall into a few familiar categories. We either have late paying customers, this is consistently one of the biggest issues for smaller businesses, especially if you work for larger contractors where they want to pay you on, not 30 days, but 60 days, maybe even 90 days. If anybody works for the dockyard, sometimes it's up to 120 days. Seasonality, that also impacts many of you. Along with, if we haven't got an eye on what our cash is doing, the unexpected VAT or corporation tax bills or payroll liabilities, all of those bits and pieces always come and bite you in the bum as well. So identifying where these pressure points are and planning for these is the first step in building a resilient cash cycle. So number one, excuse me, I've got a really sore throat today. Number one, improve your invoicing speed. So a lot of you may be losing days or even weeks because your invoices simply aren't sent through quick enough. So absolutely make it an expectation that you will be invoicing at delivery, not invoicing at month end. If you invoice at month end and you delivered on the first of the month, you might be waiting 30 days to raise that invoice. It might take another 30 days for that invoice to be paid. If you invoice at delivery and you set what your credit policy is, absolutely you should be able to get that cash in quicker. Automate what can be automated. So if you're using technology to be able to, your Xeros, your QuickBooks, etc., or some bespoke software, automate the invoicing. If you're sending something out, you can get that invoice automated. That then automatically sends out to your customer. Brilliant. There's no time delay for you sitting down to prepare that invoice. The invoice is done. The invoice is with your customer. The sooner it's with your customer, the sooner it gets paid. And be really, really clear and consistent with your customers in terms of what your payment terms are, and then sending out consistent reminders. I don't think anybody is, so long as you set your expectations from the beginning and say, I would like that invoice paid within 7 days. And then on day 8, you send them a reminder to say, we did tell you that we would like this settled within 7 days. It's going to become an expectation that they're going to get a reminder, not an annoyance. So setting clear expectations with your customers from the beginning will really help shorten this cash flow cycle. Encourage faster payments. Easier said than done, but small tweaks can really shift payment behavior. So this, again, setting your expectations clearly. So as soon as a customer gets in touch and says, I would like you to do some work for me, you say, absolutely, we can do this work for you. We will invoice as soon as the work is completed, and we expect payment within 7 days. So small tweaks in your behavior can then become tweaks in payment behavior for your customers. Great things like payment links on invoices, these really reduce the friction. So if you send the invoice out and it's got a click here to pay, there's absolutely no reason why your customer can't pay it then and there. If you send it out and say, please arrange to make a payment to this bank account, the customer knows that they're going to have to sit down, they're going to have to open their online banking, they're going to have to set you up as a payee, they're then going to have to process the payment. If you've got a click to pay will really reduce that friction, will mean that customers should be able to pay you as upon receipt of the invoice. Early payment discounts can work. So for some of you, depending on what sector you're in, absolutely early payment discounts can work, but only if your margins support them. So don't be giving away a discount if your margins can't support them, because you're not out there looking to buy work. You're out there looking to get work, get paid a respectable amount for the work that you do. And again, always set those expectations early with your clients and customers. Once we have debtors, you manage them proactively. So it's the credit control. It's a process. It's not an afterthought. So again, your structured 7-day reminder cycle and a clear escalation path to keep cash coming in smoothly. It's difficult, but don't keep supplying customers who don't pay. That's a really, really tough decision to make, but it's usually the right one. And yes, we just need to keep track of what we're doing, keep track of who pays us well, keep track of who doesn't pay us well. If they're not paying you well, consider a cash up front. Consider, payment on delivery, anything like that, to make sure that people aren't owing you 90 days after you've done the work for them. So that's the bit that we do with debtors. Conversely, we kind of want to do the same with the creditors, but you want to do the opposite with your creditors. So anybody that supplies you, you want to set your payment terms expectations. You want to say to them, I pay 30 days from the end of month. So, your creditors and your suppliers know that they will get paid 30 days following the end of the month. Equally, we want to slow down how fast we're paying our creditors, but we want to speed up how fast our debtors are coming in. There we go. And if we can get them to delay paying you, that's brilliant, because if they delay invoicing you, you've got a delay in paying. So what we want to do is shorten our debtor cycle, so call in the cash quickly, and then see if we can really stretch our creditors. We can only do this once, but if we can really stretch our creditors, it will buy us 30 days of not paying our creditors. That can give us a real boost in the bank. So covering off the invoices being sent, covering off the invoices being received, the other side would be your spending. And I think I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this slide. So cost control is not about cutting absolutely everything. It's about cutting the right things. You want to review your subscriptions. You want to negotiate your supplier terms. You want to understand your essential versus your discretionary costs. And you want to have a regular financial review so that you can spot waste early. All of you will have had a set of accounts, or all of you will have your ledgers that your Xeras or your QuickBooks or your software provides. This is where we need to sit down and do the absolute line by line expenditure. If you haven't got these ledgers, you can do it from your bank statement, where you sit down with your past 6 months worth of spending and you go, who am I paying and why am I paying them? So, and everybody's going to fall into, one of 4 quadrants. You're going to have your important, your necessary, you're not important, and not necessary. If anything lands in not important and not necessary, you stop paying. Stop paying immediately. If you've got your important and necessary people, this is where you need to then go through and go, am I tied into a contract? How much is it going to take for me to get out of that contract? Can I test the market? And can we get this cheaper elsewhere? If you can get it cheaper elsewhere, then absolutely you should be doing this. We need to be looking at really, some things that people don't even think about. So if you've got a card processing machine, can we get that, can we get the card processing fees cheaper elsewhere? It's likely that you can, but that's one of the costs that you just never test very regularly. Likewise with your broadband, your insurances, all of these bits and pieces, when you go down doing a line by line identification, is it important? Is it necessary? Can I get it cheaper elsewhere? And you do this for every single cost. And if you do this for every single cost, you may only find really small savings, but lots of really small savings really add up. And then it's the same with your softwares. So if you use softwares, are the people in the office actually using this software? Is it providing the efficiencies that we wanted it to provide? If it is, great. Let's keep using it. Or can I get a software that's half the cost, that maybe isn't as efficient, but still does the job? Because if the efficiencies aren't matching the excess cost that you're paying, then absolutely it's time to downgrade. And this is absolutely every single line of your expenses, and you can either do that from your accounts, or you can do that from your bank statement, just to make sure that you're testing absolutely every expense to say, is it important? Is it necessary? If the answer to either of those is no, then consider whether or not we're using that, consider whether or not you want to keep on paying for that expense. And you want to be doing this regularly. You want to be doing this every 3 to 6 months, because as soon as you can spot that waste, the sooner you can stop paying for things that you don't need to pay. So controlling spending, reducing the amount of cash that is tied up within your business on stock and work in progress. So every box of stock that you have on a shelf is cash that's not working hard for you. So any slow moving or obsolete stock, that's a massive double hit there, because we've purchased it, it's now not going anywhere. What can we do with it? All it's doing is costing you money and taking up space. So better planning, better stock systems, all of this can absolutely release significant amounts of cash. If you're a business that provides services, you will have the same. You won't have stock, but you will have work in progress. And this work in progress, again, you need to look at the amount of work in progress that you have and say, is there a possibility that I can do an interim bill, just so that you can charge for the time that you've already spent? Is there a possibility that we can, speak with our customers to say, maybe you want to pay on standing order and you pay us 1/12 of the annual fee every single month. This will build your cash, and it will help you saving up a load of work that you do for somebody all over the year and then build them once at the end of the year. So there's lots of bits and pieces to look at with regards to reducing stock and reducing work in progress. Building a cash reserve. Very easy to say this when times are good. But even a small buffer makes a massive difference to a business. The target cash reserve that you want to be looking at is about 3 months of overheads, but 3 months of overheads plus 3 months of your drawings. If you haven't got a personal cash buffer that'll satisfy 3, maybe 6 months of your home expenses, your mortgage, your gas, your water, your electric, all of those bits and pieces, we want to make sure that that's saved within the business. So, aim for 1 to 3 months of costs plus your drawings. The ideal would be 6 months of costs plus drawings. Keep this buffer in an entirely separate bank account. Make sure it's an interest-bearing account, so the money's at least working for you while it's there, but keep it in an absolute separate account so it doesn't get dipped into accidentally. And then you'll make that conscious decision that if you do have to dip into it for business purposes, why? You can ask yourself the question, why am I dipping into this? Because if you're dipping into it, you're clearly not planning for all of your costs during the year. And it could be that a hot potato landed in your lap. That happens. And you do need to find excess cash elsewhere. But, what we would like is that you've got that money saved, is put to one side, you don't touch it because you're managing your finances so proactively elsewhere that the next bump in the what the next bump in the road is what we need that money for, and you're aware of where your cash flow is going to become quite lumpy. Leads on quite nicely to building a cash flow forecast. So forecasting turns your guesswork into informed decision making. So weekly forecasting is going to be great for anybody that's got tight cash. So you really want to, plan out exactly what you're spending and when. Once your business becomes slightly more resilient, you can probably look at monthly rolling forecasts, but you want to roll this out probably 12 months. So you know exactly what's coming and when, and then you can provide for any of those big costs when those big costs land and when they become due. Some of those big costs, obviously, it's going to help you plan for your VAT, your taxes when they come due, your payroll liabilities, any asset or equipment spending that you might have on the horizon. If we know where all of these costs are going to land, you're not going to be surprised by them, and it means that you can provide for them as the money's coming in. So weekly for tight cash, monthly for a more resilient business, and a 12-month forecast, so you can anticipate all of the costs over the next 12 months. All of this will help you to be able to decide whether or not A, you can afford something, or B, if we're going to hit tight cash, we can hit tight cash. We can plan for it now, because we'll come on to finance. But if you're looking to raise some finance because you've got a cash flow issue, it's very easy to do that when the business is buoyant. When a business is buoyant, the banks and the financial institutions, they will throw money at you when the business is looking good. When things are really tight, those banks and those financial institutions probably won't want to know. So having available credit facilities in place way before the need for that cash arises just means that you've got your ducks in a row, and you're not going cap in hand to the bank, because at that point either they're not going to allow the finance, or the finance will become a lot more expensive. So cash flow key to this, as is pricing for sustainability. So many of you are probably undercharging without realizing it. So costs rise annually, and because costs rise annually, your pricing should rise annually too. And we need to make sure that you capture all of those increases in price, and you're passing those on to your customers as far as you can, because your suppliers will certainly be raising their costs. Staff costs, as we know, are just ridiculous at the moment. We're about to see another 50p on national minimum wage. That 50p on national minimum wage for anybody at the bottom rung of the ladder then means that we have to almost match that for anybody that's above national minimum wage. Employers' national insurance, that's probably all been quite painful for you guys this year. And then just general inflation. All of these costs, your business is absorbing all of these. So we need to make sure that you're pricing what you do correctly at the outset, because there's no point in buying work. You can absolutely buy work and keep yourself busy, but what you're not going to be doing there is making yourself any money. So you become a busy fool rather than having a busy business. There is the option to use value-based pricing depending on your customers. So value-based pricing often supports increased rates where the customers appreciate the outcome rather than the time that you put in. Very much depends on your business as to whether or not you can bill on that basis. But yeah, the value-based pricing, or sometimes contingent pricing, depending on a cost saving or a metric that you can measure. We've then got scenario planning. So this is where you as business leaders sit and you just say, what if? So asking the what if questions might feel really negative, but it's actually really empowering for the business. So what you're doing is you're rehearsing the challenges before they arrive. So this will A, make your response time faster, and B, make your response time more effective, because you've already gone through the scenario. So, what if your sales drop? What if your biggest customer goes? What if a key member of staff leaves? All of these things, if you ask yourself the question now, what if this happens? If you've got a plan to get yourself out of that position, you've got an arsenal. You've got the arsenal behind you to go, if this happens, this is how we're going to pivot the business to make sure this works. And it just keeps your business really agile. So it just, as the business leader, it just gives you the confidence that you know what you're going to do. It reduces the panic, and it then means that you can have a cool, measured response to whatever lands on your doormat. Access to finance, chatted about this briefly. So not all debt is bad debt. Sometimes, if you need a piece of equipment, it's going to cost you £20,000 for this piece of equipment. We can either pay for it outright, or you can stretch the cost of that over 12, 24, 36, however many months. If your business can't afford the cash hit for that £20,000, but it's absolutely going to improve efficiencies, or be able to, or give you the tools to be able to deliver what your customers want, then absolutely you need that piece of machinery. So yeah, not all debt is bad debt, and finance is really a tool for stability. It's not a last resort. As I said before, if you're treating it as a last resort, it's very unlikely that those institutions are going to lend to you. Having the facilities available before you need them is, you're in a much stronger position than you are if you're applying in a crisis. So having a well-structured mix of overdrafts, possible invoice finance, possible asset finance can really smooth out those cash flow bumps. So, not all debt in a business is bad debt. We just need to make sure that that debt is A, structured correctly, B, you can afford the repayments for whatever that debt looks like, and C, isn't expensive finance. You want to get the finance as cheap as possible. And we did have 10 years of finance being incredibly cheap. It's less cheap now, but we just need to factor in the cost of finance into the business to see whether or not the business can afford it. Technology. There's lots of technology that supports cash flow, and cloud systems and cloud-based systems give real-time visibility, which is essential for good decision making. So if you haven't got cloud-based technology, I would recommend getting it. All of these also come with automations within. Lots of them have automations which are going to reduce your administration time. It's going to reduce the amount of errors. And then you can get this automation technology for your stock, for your invoicing, and for your forecasting. Most of these tools will pay for themselves really quickly through the efficiencies that they provide you. So, having all of this is just, again, another tool in your arsenal that means that you know that your business is running as efficiently as possible, because inefficiencies cost money, as does just excess costs. So we want to keep it as efficient and as lean as absolutely possible. And then people. So we also need to make sure that we have people and process resilience. So a lot of businesses, especially small business, often rely really heavily on one or two key people. This creates a massive risk within your business. If at the moment, and I know lots of businesses are, you're a little bit quiet at the moment, if you're a little bit quiet, this is the time where you keep your staff as busy as possible, but you keep them busy with training. So training and cross-training will really help reduce that risk of a person leaving. And cross-training also helps to cover the periods where people aren't in the office. So, there's illness, there's holiday, there's, maternity, depending on who's in your team. So if you do have capacity at the moment, you want to get your members of staff cross-training and teaching each other their skills, so that you've got a raft of people that are able to do absolutely everything, not individuals that are responsible for things. Documenting your processes also helps with this. So there's Scribe and other things at the moment that you can, it's a piece of software. You tell them how you process something. It then creates a really simple, easy how-to guide, which means if that member of staff is suddenly not within the business, you've got a whole raft of this is how you do things, which just creates consistency for your clients, and it also makes scaling easier. So if the business is growing, brilliant, but you want to make sure that you're doing everything consistently between each member of staff and each process. People risk is really often one of the most underestimated risks, and you only really realize how much somebody does in a business until they're no longer within the business. And then a resilience plan. So I would say to each of you, your next 30 days, let's do something. So let's focus on practical next steps. First, identify your biggest cash leak. Is it late payers? Are we holding on to too much stock? Are we overspending on some of the costs? Is our pricing not correct? Identify at least one of those things, and then make a plan to improve. No, make a plan to improve one of those. improve one of your financial processes. So, is that going to be something as simple as just getting the payment link in your invoices? If it is, we should really start seeing cash coming in quicker. Build yourself that 12-month cash flow plan. And then create yourself a register. Create yourself a register with your top 5 risks, list them, and then have diary entries to review that quarterly. What are the biggest risks within my business? Review them quarterly, and then review your actions as to what you're going to do to be able to tackle those. So this was very much a very quick run through of what you should be doing and the areas in which you should be looking. Does anybody, or is anybody brave enough to ask questions in the open forum?
We've got a question from Catherine.
Oh, yeah, that was super interesting. I'm Kath from the Royal Albert Memorial Museum, and the team there want to ask you, we have to do incredibly complicated cash flow forecasts to get grants.
Yep.
I know AI is a bit controversial, but we would like to use it. Is there anything you could point us in the direction of that's really basic and easy to use?
You're going to know your cash flow better than AI is going to know your cash flow. You can absolutely use now, because you're talking about your financial data, you need to be really careful what you're providing your AI tool. I think this is topical, isn't it, Claire? There's something coming up on the 9th. Is it the 9th?
The 9th of June, Digital Devon. And if you want to get in touch with us then about any of either AI questions or other cost reductions, then please reach out to myself. I'll put my email in the chat, and we can put you in touch with the right people. It's a really good question. It's a very relevant question, but it's not an easy one to answer. And I say the biggest risk, as Sean has alluded to, is please don't just anyone go and stick your company private data into a free AI solution, because you are giving it away to the world, and you do not want to do that. So AI can help, but there's some steps that you need before you just let yourself loose on it or let your team loose on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that they'll cover this more on the digital one. You haven't got control of the data that you put into AI. So you can absolutely tell AI what your business is, your VAT quarters, when you have to pay the tax, how many staff you've got, what your usual payroll looks like, and what all your costs are, and say, can you build me a cash flow forecast? And it will give you the template. It will give you an Excel template that you can go in, and then you can change that so that it's better for you. Depending on the tools you have, I know Copilot, so Microsoft Copilot, so Copilot's AI. If you have the paid for version, you can put your company, if you get your settings correct, and don't do this straight after the call, go, wait until the 9th and speak to the digital folk, because there's settings within that where you can restrict that the information that you put into that AI stays within your Microsoft Enterprise. And if it's staying within your Microsoft Enterprise, it's not going out to any other third party. If you have this set up correctly, you could provide it with 36 months of your old bank statements, and you could put that in and say, build me a cash flow forecast for the next 12 months. And it will look at all of your costs, and it should be able to give you something that's almost fit for purpose. It's never going to be 100% correct, but it will give you the bare bones. But absolutely do not do that unless you've got the paid license, and do not do that until you know what the settings are, so that your data does not end up available to whoever's servers they end up on.
You need cyber essentials and need insurance. I'm Sean, I'm not going to stop this, but I'm going to stop the recording now at this point, just
Okay.
because then people might have other questions that they don't want on the recording. So I'm just going to stop the recording, and then we can see if anyone has any more questions.
I've got oh sorry,